A ping pong ball and a basketball are sitting in the gym on the floor. A student pushes both balls off the volleyball court to play. The basketball has 200 times as much mass as the ping pong ball. List Newton's three laws and explain how each one applies to the situation.
All right, the first part of the question states that you should list Newton's three laws. First law, an object at rest will stay at rest unless acted upon by an unbalanced force, or an object in motion will stay in motion at the same velocity unless acted upon by an unbalanced force. This means either an object is sitting there and it's not going to move. When it's at rest, it's not changing position relative to a reference point. So this is at rest because it's not changing position relative to a reference point. However, if I apply a force to it, then it will move, an unbalanced force. The second part, an object in motion will stay in motion at the same velocity. That means at the same speed and direction. So theoretically, if I throw this, it should go straight and never turn at the same speed forever. Of course, that doesn't happen on Earth because gravity is going to pull the object down and air resistance will slow the object down in the air. It'll come down and hit the ground and come to a stop because there are unbalanced forces at work. Okay, the second law has to do with force being equal to mass times acceleration. That means if I have two objects that have a different mass and I push them with the same acceleration, I'd have to use more force on one. Or if I push two objects with a different mass with the same force, one of them would accelerate slower. The one with more mass. The one with less mass would accelerate faster if I use the same amount of push or pull. Number three, all forces come in pairs. That's two. That are of equal force and in the opposite direction. That means if I hit the wall hits my hand back with the same amount of force in the opposite direction. Okay? Now, how do we apply this to the scenario? A ping pong ball and a basketball are sitting on the gym floor. A student comes in and pushes both balls off the volleyball court to play volleyball. Okay, so here we have a basketball and a ping pong ball. They have different mass. Okay, let's say one is 1 gram and one is 200 grams. For example, how does the first law apply? Well, the simple answer is I need an object at rest and that it's going to stay there unless acted upon by an unbalanced force. Alright, so the basketball is sitting on the floor, it's not moving, it will stay there at rest until I come along and push it. Done. That's the easy way. And you might as well stick with the easiest way. You could say, well, if I come along and push the basketball, it will continue in the same direction at the same speed forever, unless acted upon by an unbalanced force. That means the basketball would take right off into space eventually and keep going to another galaxy or something like that. Well, that's not going to happen, of course, because the unbalanced force, being gravity and air friction and friction on the ground, will slow it down. So it's just much simpler to use the first half of the law. Now, in the second case, how would we apply the second law? Well, it says that a student pushes both balls off the volleyball court to play. It doesn't say how hard or with the same force or the same acceleration or anything, so you can pretty much make up your answer however you want. In this case, I would say, well, the student pushed both balls with the same amount of force. Therefore, the ping pong ball would accelerate much faster because it has less mass. Or you could say he accelerated them with the same amount of speed, or accelerated them the same amount, but he had to use more force to accelerate the basketball because it had more mass. Either way will work. And the last part, law 3, when the student pushed on the ball pushed back on the student. Okay? It has to be with the same amount of force and in the exact opposite direction. And that's how you do Newton's 3 laws.